Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Ernie Harker. Ernie Harker is a creative branding mastermind. He recently published Your Brand Sucks, a book that reveals why most companies get branding wrong and reveals the step-by-step formula he has used to assist dozens of companies define a clear image and personality for their brands. One of his greatest successes was to help revitalize an old Western retail chain into a $3 billion high-energy adventure brand. He leads workshops, gives presentations, and offers an online masterclass to help organizations define and develop remarkable brands. Self-diagnosed with hyperactive productivity disorder, Ernie loves to draw, trail run, compete in triathlons, wakeboard, do yoga, lift weights, camp, mountain bike, watch movies, eat junk food, and spend time with his family and 7 brothers. Ask him what his real-life allergies to exercise and the TV travel show he hosted. Buckle up because his dynamic personality and passion for brand development will have you racing to build your brand. His friends call him Earnburn, so call him Earnburn. All right, Earnburn. So without further delay, sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's jump right into this conversation with Ernie. Welcome, Ernie.
Thank you so much, Yannick. This is great.
All right, Ernie. I know that we've read your bio, at least parts of it, and we've gotten, a formal view of who you are. But we always like to give our guests an opportunity to share in their own words a little bit about their journey and how you got to where you are today. Could you share that?
Absolutely. And I think like most of your guests, we always start on a path that never seems to be like, if I were to rewind my life, I never would have thought I would have ended up where I'm at. I wanted to be an illustrator or an animator when I was a kid. And so I was in illustration. I drew all the time and studied illustration at the university. And when I got out of university, I got a job for an ad agency, and I was doing concept development. And that's just pre-visualization of either TV commercials or print ads or online ads or whatever. I would sketch out what a creative director or an art director would have in mind, and then we would show those drafts, those pieces of art to the client. And what I learned is that I learned to become really good at visualizing language. I wasn't a writer, and so I had to clearly communicate and very quickly communicate an idea visually. And so illustration led to storyboards, and which led to TV commercials, radio commercials, interactive design, then print design. And so now I was all over the place doing all kinds of creative development stuff. But that led me into brand development because branding is such a visual experience. We often think of branding as like colors and logos and graphic design and things like that. But it's also a lot more personality conveyed through language, visual language and verbal language, tone, vocabulary, and things like that. And so that's kind of how I started as an illustrator and developed into a branding guy. So it took a while.
Okay. Now, branding is very important to customer experience, and your brand is, as you said, it's not just from a marketing perspective, the image that comes out in your advertisements or, any form of post that you put up on any social media platform. But could you maybe share with us 3 important things you think a company needs to have in order to really have, at least give off the impression of being a brand that is for their customer?
Absolutely. And I am so grateful that you are championing the customer experience, because so many businesses focus on their business and not the customer experience. Their business will be fine if they just focus on the customer experience. And so anyway, congratulations and thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. there's a singular lens. Every brand should have a singular lens that they use to focus the customer experience, and those are all the touch points that a customer would see, hear, read, notice, anything like that. So those are all touch points. Well, the customer experience is a conscious decision to filter all those touch points to reinforce a specific personality of the company. So really, we're trying to just, with all these customer experiences, we're trying to engage and attract a customer, make them fall in love with a business. You can't make anybody fall in love with the business unless there's a personality associated with that business. And so defining what your brand lens or personality is really about will then help you choose the visual elements, the pictures, colors, textures, all those kinds of things, and the verbal elements, the language, vocabulary, the tone, to give that customer the glimpse into the organization's personality. So they go, oh my gosh, I love this company. Not just, oh, I recognize the company, which is a lot of branding oftentimes is I can differentiate between one company and another company visually, but it needs to be more than that. It needs to be more of a personal, emotional connection. Like, I really am attracted to this company. Mm-hmm. And that's done like for a convenience store chain. I was involved in the convenience store chain business for a long time. And what's neat about the convenience store business is that it's one of the very few businesses that have customers come in on a daily or multiple times per week. Like banks don't do that. Retail locations don't do that. Even McDonald's, well, maybe there's some people that go every day, but a convenience store, like they're buying fuel, customers are buying fuel, they're buying snacks, they're buying drinks, whatever. And so the environment needs to be inviting. What is it about the walls, the floors, the interior design, the exterior design that reinforces the personality of the business? And then, of course, you have the person behind the counter. At Maverick, the convenience store that I was developing a brand for, we called them adventure guides because we had an adventurous personality. We wanted to make it feel like people were going to the great outdoors when they would come to a store. And so we called them adventure guides. So titles, the way customers were greeted. So you have this visual experience when people come in, and then you have the vocabulary of like a greeting, and you meet somebody who is an adventure guide instead of a clerk or a teller, mm-hmm. or a whatever. And then, of course, all the marketing and advertising goes on top of that customer experience. I hope that answers your question in a roundabout way.
Definitely it does. So there are quite a few things that you mentioned that I am definitely 100% on board with. I think sometimes also when people hear the word brand, it's like brand is highly associated with marketing, not mm-hmm. necessarily customer experience. Are there maybe 2 or 3 personality traits that you think an employee or a leader needs to have in an organization in order to really develop a brand that is highly, associated in a positive way? Because, your brand can have a negative image and your brand can have a positive image. But what are some key things that you would need to ensure, would you say it should be linked to your core values? And if that's the case, what should be your strategy where recruitment is concerned?
Mm-hmm. There's 3 things. 3 things I'm gonna say off the top of my head. One is humility. And what I mean by humility is oftentimes organizational leaders or employees think they know best. They have their own personal opinion, and they think their personal opinion is stronger than anybody else's opinion or research. So humility, curiosity is the second one. Like, I want to know what our customers really think. I want to learn as much as I can. So humility gives us opening in our brains and our hearts for change, and curiosity leads us to find the material to fill in that empty space that's relative, mm-hmm. That's applicable, right? And then the third thing is, I think, passion. There's so much boringness going on in the world today. I want to be surrounded by people who are enthusiastic about what they do. It doesn't matter what they do. I could care less, but I care about the enthusiasm and the passion by which they're engaged. So there's too many retail locations or retailers with employees who are completely disengaged. They are there counting the minutes between breaks, can't wait to get home. And so the customer experience is a huge empty space in those locations, those businesses.
Right.
So enthusiasm, man, I just want to feel some love, some passion. I don't care if I'm ordering a Big Mac. I want someone to be excited about it for me,
Mm-hmm.
So those are the three things: humility, curiosity, and passion or enthusiasm.
All right. Great. So those are three great tips that I strongly agree with as well. Should be definitely part of any organization's brand. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ernie, could you share with us what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
Oh my gosh. I think Photoshop.
Okay.
It's one of those things. Photoshop. I'm learning to use HubSpot because I've been terrible as a CRM guy.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do a better job with that, but I do so many things in Photoshop because I'm image oriented, whether it's illustration or even graphic design, online, banners, video thumbnails, and all those. If I didn't have Photoshop, I don't know, I'd be a stick in the mud.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So Photoshop is your main tool. Could you also share with us maybe one or two books that have had the biggest impact on you? It could be a book that you read a very long time ago, or even one that you read recently, but it has a great impact on you.
I think the book that has had one of the most profound impacts on me is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
Mm-hmm.
And I have referenced it so much that my wife gives me a hard time about it because, okay, on my nightstand, I have a set of scriptures, the Bible. This is my go-to. That's my big go-to book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I got my scriptures, and I'm a faith-based person. I'm very religious. But next to that, for years, was Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek. And so I would reference ideas from the 4-Hour Workweek, and my wife would say, "Oh, are you quoting Brother Ferriss again?" Because it's like he's almost like a prophet.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the things that he talked about that were profound to me is the Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Of becoming more efficient with your time. He also talked a lot about multiple careers instead of retirement and working for the future. We're designed to be very creative people. So why do we work like crazy in one career, and then hope one day we'll retire and not have to work? I think that's crazy. I don't ever want to stop working.
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep doing fun, cool stuff. And so the idea of multiple careers and mini retirements. I could talk for a whole hour about Tim Ferriss and his teachings.
Okay.
There I go. But that was the most profound book for me.
All right. So we'll have a link to that book in the show notes of this episode.
Yeah.
We have a lot of listeners who are business owners and managers who feel sometimes that they have great products and services, but they lack the constantly motivated human capital. If you were sitting across the table from that person, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them to have a successful business?
I would love to be able to incorporate employee compensation with customer experience so that they're rewarded, the customer or the employees are rewarded. Their compensation is structured on how much the customers enjoy their interaction, how much they appreciate the interaction. So that instead of like sales-based, like always commission-based, play the long game of I want to hire people that are compensated when customers or potential customers have a really good experience with them. So, and then also provide the employee with the resources to wow their customers. Like being able to send a note, being able to send a very small, inexpensive gift, things like that. So they're empowered and they're compensated based on their customer experience. Because I know that there will be people that the customers will always come back to a really good experience.
All right. Great advice. Now, Ernie, could you share with us what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something that you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
I have been going bonkers over a YouTube channel that teaches kids to draw. So I created a YouTube channel. I spend way too much time on it. But I get to produce I get to do the drawing, I do the lesson, and then I go edit the video. And so all the fun things in creative production that I enjoy, as well as kind of inspiring and igniting the excitement of drawing, which is affordable to everybody. It's within the reach of the poorest of poor people. You get a piece of charcoal and a log, and you can draw.
Right.
Pencil and paper, it's super, super inexpensive. But the ability to express creativity with pencil and paper and an iPad and Procreate or whatever is just so empowering for me. And so I've done 100 episodes in the past 2 years, and the channel it's at 4,000 subscribers. Mm-hmm. So it's not very big, but it has been so much fun to make these videos and just have fun being creative in the YouTube world.
Nice. All right. So our listeners would have tapped into this episode, Ernie, and they're quite intrigued with what you're doing, and they would like to follow you online. Where can they find you online?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn is probably the best place, and just type Ernie Harker, ERNIE HARKER, and I post on that more frequently than any other platform. I'm not a big Instagram guy, but I do a little bit of that. LinkedIn's the best.
Okay. All right. So we'll have the link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes of this episode. Now, before we wrap our episodes up, Ernie, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? It kind of helps to get you back on track or get you back focused if for any reason you get derailed.
When I was writing my book, Your Brand Sucks, which was very, very hard for me. I have ADD, and so kind of staying focused on that was really, really challenging. And I'd often want to give up. I've been involved in multiple businesses, a lot of entrepreneurial businesses, and none of them met the financial goals that I had. Like I wanted to build these businesses and have it sell, millions of dollars worth of product or whatever. But most of the time they just kind of broke even. And while sharing my disappointment, my frustration with a coworker of mine, an executive of with me, he was listening to me talk about my TV series didn't work out. I took longer to run my Ironman than I thought I should. That the book, my children's book didn't sell very well. He's looked at me like, dude, you get credit for trying. You get credit for trying. And what I think is impactful to me about that little mantra is that it kind of reshapes my definition of success, of not relying on success of things I can't control. Like, for example, if I write a book, I have very little control whether or not it sells 1 million copies, if it gets popular, if Oprah loves it, right? But I have 100% control whether or not I finish writing the book. So if I were to focus my success, my definition of success on things that I can control, then I could be very productive. But I can write the book because the temptation is I'm going to give up because nothing that I've done so far has met my definition of success. So why even try? Mm-hmm. Instead, I did that. And so I can do it again. Even though the sales or whatever, the financial numbers aren't spectacular.
Right.
I can look back on my life and go, I did a lot of really great stuff that I was passionate about, whether or not it made money or not. So,
All right.
So you get credit for trying.
Agreed. Pat on the back.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Ernie, for taking time out of your very busy day today and hopping on this podcast and sharing all of these great nuggets as it relates to having a strong brand. You know, you spoke about some of the key things that a strong brand needs, like humility, curiosity, and passion and enthusiasm. And, you know, we just really took a lot away from what you shared, and we appreciate you taking time to sit and have this conversation with us today.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for your enthusiasm about the customer experience. We need more people like you in the world.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Your words are very kind. Just want to remind our listeners to follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX, and feel free to join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.